Well, the new president of the Pan-African Parliament, Chief Fortune Charumbira, says he wants to end regional divisions after failing to choose a leader earlier that Parliament reconvened last week. We've been looking at the outcome despite many expectations of chaos. The Zimbabwean senator and traditional leader emerged victorious. Well, Zimbabwean journalist Hopewell Chinono joining us now. Thank you for being with us, Hopewell. How is Charumbira seen, viewed at home in Zimbabwe?
Well, Chief Fortune Charumbira is a traditional leader. He's the head of the Chiefs Council in Zimbabwe. In October 2017, he broke the laws of Zimbabwe. He said something that was unconstitutional, that the traditional chiefs in Zimbabwe should support the election of Robert Mugabe. That time, Robert Mugabe was the president. The Election Resource Center took him to court in 2018, and they argued that his statements were unconstitutional because the Constitution of Zimbabwe says that traditional leaders should not be partisan. Chief Charumbira lost the case. He was ordered by Judge Justice Piri to retract the statement, and he has since refused to retract that statement. So a lot of people in Zimbabwe are wondering how somebody who undermines the rule of law in his own country is then expected to uphold the rule of law at continental level. Zimbabwe is about to go into another election. He was taken to court on the basis of the fact that he was undermining the constitution and the laws according to our constitution in relationship to the elections. Now, if Zimbabwe ends up in a disputed election again in 2023, how is he going to preside over that issue as the president of the Pan-African Parliament, when the very institution, ZANU-PF, he says must be supported by traditional leaders, is one of the antagonists in the case. So those are the problems that we see from this end in Zimbabwe. I think it was important that the presidents came to SADC, but it must be based on merit when it comes to SADC. We should have people or members of parliament, of the Pan-African Parliament, elected to lead it, who respect the rule of law. Most of the times as Africans, we blame the West, we blame everyone else except ourselves, and yet we fail to understand that we are living in poverty. There's so much corruption on the continent. People are dying because we do not have medication, and the whole of Zimbabwe does not have a single cancer machine. And this is because we undermine the laws that are enacted by ourselves. We undermine the rule of law, we undermine the constitution, and when things do not work, we go around the world blaming everyone else, and yet the buck stops with us.
So would that be on the parliamentarians from the South that supported him? Take us through some of the history. EFF leader Julius Malema was there last year saying that somebody from the South had to be elected, and from Zimbabwe, Barbara Wodzi. Did they back the wrong horse? You're saying he's not a bastion of democracy.
Yes, indeed. It is important that Julius Malema stood up for Southern Africa, because most of the Pan-African Parliament business has been controlled by the French-speaking African countries. So it's important that it came to SADC as well. But you see, we should not celebrate simply because one of us has been elected when that person undermines the rule of law. We should back people who respect the rule of law. The fact that I'm Zimbabwean, if I'm delinquent, does not mean that all Zimbabweans should celebrate my election to anybody when they know that I'm delinquent. It shows that we do not respect the rule of law. It doesn't make sense for us to expect the Pan-African Parliament to respect the laws that have been put in place by the African Union when we are electing people that are undermining the rule of law in their own countries. That is unacceptable.
So Many would argue that what the Pan-African Parliament needs right now is a unifier, somebody to bring together these regions that have been clashing heads. Despite the legal findings that you've laid out, could he be something of a unifier? He's been saying things like, I'm president of everyone, and he's been saying that the continent can only develop when there's unity.
Well, all African dictatorships say that. Robert Mugabe used to say he's the president of everyone. He used to talk about unity, but we all know what he did. He rigged the elections, he killed citizens, there was repression in Zimbabwe, and it continues to be there to this very day. So that is people saying things that they don't practice. If you are going to be a unifier, then you must unify your people at home first. You must make sure that the laws in your own country are respected. How do you expect somebody to respect the continental laws when he doesn't respect the laws in his own country?
There's talk of EU funders pulling out. Julius Malema said, well, let them go because a Zimbabwean candidate has been elected and he's the one that you're talking about. Is there a risk that the PAP, which is linked to the AU and should have an African-wide perspective, could become embroiled in Zimbabwean politics?
Well, it will be unfortunate. I want to put it on the record that there are some good MPs, even in ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe. It would have made sense if we had somebody even from ZANU-PF, but who respected the rule of law, who does not have a track record like Chief Fortune Charumbira. It's so unfortunate that our continent relies on European Union funding for its own parliamentary business. It's like a father from another house or a mother from another house coming to feed your family. It takes away your dignity. This country is so rich, resource rich. There is so much, and yet it's being plundered. The fact that the very same Pan-African Parliament is being funded by the European Union, it shows you that there's a big problem. And that problem comes back to what I was talking about, that the rule of law is not respected, constitutions are not respected, there's looting of public funds. That's why we are not even able to fund small institutions like parliaments. The Pan-African Parliament is a very small institution, and yet 54 countries are failing to fund it. That's despicable. That's embarrassing.
All right, thank you very much for giving us your views. Zimbabwean journalist Hopewell Chinono.